So, my name is Martijn Tevel. I work as a guitar technician in Rotterdam. I work for most bands in Rotterdam. And I repair, tube amplifiers, guitars, all kinds of electrical stuff. A lot of effect pedals. I build effect pedals. I started out, it was never, I don't know how this happened. It was never the plan to become a guitar technician. I've never known what to do with myself. But I'm a very obsessive person, and I started playing guitar, started getting interested in stuff, how stuff works. Eventually, I think my guitar broke down, or I wanted different pickups or something, and I always had to bring it somewhere, and I got really tired of doing that. And then the father of a guy I know, an old guitar player, I knew he could do stuff. He could do it himself, and I just called him one night, like, could you help me out? Could you show me a few things? And yeah, he showed me how to solder and how to change pickups in a guitar, and it just went from there, I guess. Started doing things for myself, learning, then started doing some stuff for other people, some friends, and from there it kind of exploded, and now I work as a technician. For a few years professionally, I guess. I'm my own company, but I would never call myself a professional. I'm just a very confused person that also knows a lot about electronics. And guitar players can play very well, but they don't know shit about electronics, and that's why I'm here. So one of the main things I do is work on tube amps. Very popular for guitar players, and especially vintage tube amps are very popular. Something like this. This is an old Fender Champ. A lot of guitar players play on bigger amps, but most guitar players I know, most cool bands play on vintage tube amps, and they tend to break down a lot. Yeah, why do they break down? Because they have a lot of problems. Well, first of all, I think this thing is 40, 50 years old, and also tubes, they work on high voltage. So this is an electrical system, and it's under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of heat generated, there's a lot of power going on, and after 30, 40 years, things tend to go wrong. So what you have to know about amplifiers and about any electrical system is that it's a closed system. Like, power goes in, and the amplifier uses power to first amplify your guitar signal, because your guitar signal is like this big. It needs to be bigger to be properly heard and to be processed by the amp. So there's a pre-amplifier, and then, speaking very simply, there's a power section, and the power section generates power for the speaker to move. Like, what's important here? It's a closed system. Power can't leak out of the system and not between the stages. But what tends to happen, these things get hot, components start to leak, and voltage starts to leak from one place to another, and this upsets the system. Then, like I said, there's a lot of power going on. A lot of tube amps work on 400, 500, 600, 700 volts, and yeah, what tends to happen is when stuff leaks, that power has to go somewhere, and when power is generated, that becomes heat. When things go wrong, the components and the tubes, they dissipate too much energy, and then they burn up, and that's when things go to shit. And that's where I come in. A lot of guitar players, they treat these amps, especially these old beats, they treat them as toys, but they're not toys. They're very dangerous. Like I said, tubes work on high voltage. So I've seen, I've had amplifiers catch fire here. I've been shocked by amplifiers, which was not very funny, but it's kind of part of the deal. You have to learn these things. And I was working on an amplifier, holding something which is stupid, which you should never do, and then I got hit, and I felt like the electricity, felt it run through my fingers, through my arm, into my chest, and your muscles just... Luckily I dropped it and I survived, but it was very... it wasn't painful, but it was a shocking experience. Okay, so obviously, to really fix these things, to check them out, you need some gear. I have this baby. This is a function generator which makes a test signal, and this is an oscilloscope which makes a visual representation of the voltage going in. And this vintage Fender Champ, we're gonna put it on now, is over here. And this thing is gonna show me the output signal to the speakers. So this is the test signal, which is a sine wave. It's just the most boring signal in the world. It just goes, but that's perfect for testing amps. Turn it up further, you'll see we'll reach the limits of what this amp can do. And you'll see the tops start to change. And when I turn it further, they're completely disformed. And this is what we call distortion. This is one of my obsessions and why this amp is cool, because it distorts. And as you can see, this is distorted as fuck. And maybe I can let you hear how that sounds. As you can hear, this is sounding pretty clean. But what I just showed you, when you put it full open, it only has 5 watts of power, so it can't amplify beyond its limit. After that, the signal starts to compress, starts to sound tube distortion like what you would hear out of pedals, and I think that's pretty fucking cool. That is why these amps are so great, because sorry neighbors. So, I've been Martijn Tevel, guitar technician in Rotterdam. Thanks for listening to my bullshit. I don't know if you've learned something. I have no fucking idea. If your amp breaks down, call me, come to Left of the Dial. And by the way, I play in a band called The Sweet Release of Death. Check that out. Check Left of the Dial out. Thanks.